listening to the Art of Homeschooling podcast, where we help parents cultivate creativity and connection at home. I'm your host, Jean Miller, and here on this podcast, you'll find stories and inspiration to bring you the confidence you need to make homeschooling work for your family. Let's begin. Hey, homeschool friend. Today, I want to help you find your rhythm so that you can find more ease in your homeschooling life. No matter if you love the idea of rhythm and feel totally comfortable with it, or you feel like it's an elusive thing, this episode is going to help you make friends with rhythm in a whole new way and be more gentle with yourself in the process. Because rhythm really is something that can make our lives easier and simplify our days so that we can experience more ease. Okay, so it all starts with accepting something about our lives as homeschooling parents in the modern world. Are you ready? We have a lot going on. That's right. The place to start is to recognize that we juggle so many different things from one day to the next as homeschooling parents. Just interacting with our children alone can be a lot. I remember years ago when I was in the midst of homeschooling, I often felt like if I counted the number of times I heard the plea, "Mommy," in a day, it would be in the hundreds. That alone was so much to handle. Okay, real quick, just for the fun of it. Have you ever read one of those job descriptions of a mother? I'll put a link in the show notes to a great one from the Chicago Tribune that was circulating back in my homeschooling days. And of course, this applies to whoever the primary parent is, right? Not just the mom. It's both funny and eye-opening to read one of these. Included is a job description section that lists all the tasks of daily living, plus helping a child who awakens during the night, offering emotional support, preparing food, and sorting laundry. Add homeschooling on top of that, and we get an exhaustive list of daily tasks. Then, of course, there's the section called Job Hours and Pay. And there you'll find this, and I quote, "The mom job is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no sick days and limited vacation days, unless you're willing to take the child on vacation. Also, this job does not pay monetarily. In fact, the job entails the opposite. You pay for everything for the child from birth through college and possibly after." Okay, so enough sobering / humor. What I want to really convey is that this is why rhythm can help us so much. We need rhythm in our modern lives because honestly, we live in an arrhythmic world. We have access to just about anything 24/7, information, contacting someone, anything we want. So the truth is, we need all the help we can get. Life is full. So how does rhythm help? Why is rhythm the place to start rather than curriculum when it comes to homeschooling? That's what we're going to talk about today. This week, here on the podcast, I'm focusing on the first part of this framework, which is finding your homeschool rhythm. And then be sure to tune back in next week for the second part of the framework, which I call better than curriculum. So rhythm first, curriculum second. Here's the starting point with rhythm. Create a simple daily rhythm that is fail-proof and so incredibly easy and simple that you can follow it most days. Now, if you're still perplexed about this idea of rhythm, just think of it as a repeatable pattern or flow of activities one to the next. If you want to hear more about the basics of rhythm, I'll link to a few other podcast episodes I've done on the topic because we talk a lot about rhythm around here. It's so very important and helpful. You can check out episode 3, Relax into Your Homeschool Rhythm, episode 13, Create a Simple Morning Routine for a Strong Start to Your Homeschooling Day, or episode 149, The Rhythm of Family Mealtimes. So back to this idea of rhythm. How do we develop a repeatable pattern in our day-to-day life? I know most of us think we want more variety in our days. Perhaps you get bored easily. We feel excited to homeschool because of the flexibility, and variety sounds so great in theory. But when we get into it, we come to experience the phenomenon of too many options being paralyzing. And our children start acting out if we don't have any structure at all in our days. When we have a framework to follow, a really simple structure to hold us, an idea of how one activity will flow into another with predictability, we actually experience more freedom rather than less. I know this is counterintuitive, but not having any structure at all to your days offers you too many options and not enough repetition, creating a sense of having to make one decision after another over and over and over again. Without a routine or rhythm, we often feel lost and life feels chaotic. Repetition makes your life easier. That's why creating a routine and then repeating it so that it becomes a rhythm reduces decision fatigue and supports you. And the number one way for your days to go more smoothly is for you to do things with enough consistency that you can do them without so much thought or effort. The way to do this with your homeschooling days and lessons is to create a daily rhythm that is very simple and has a lot of repetition from one day to the next. If you're new to this idea, you'll be shocked at how much freedom something like this is going to give you mentally, even if you're someone who likes variety. Trust me, just give it a try. Rhythm is really at the core of homeschooling, and here's why it can be so helpful. Even if you wake up feeling like you don't really have a plan for lessons for the day, and of course, we've all been there, you can still flow through learning activities because you have a framework of how to move from one thing to the next. So let's get into what that might look like. For lesson time, this might be as simple as starting with music in a verse, like one song, one poem, moving into a story, then table work with drawing or writing, and ending with skills practice. That's what a super simple rhythm could look like. And you can think of these aspects, these parts of the rhythm as like buckets. So starting with a music and verse, you can still bring variety by choosing what that song or verse might be. You get to choose the story. You get to choose what the table work might be or what the skills practice might be. So there's still a lot of flexibility in this rhythm that you've created, but it can be so simple like that so that you can remember each day what the structure might look like. Or maybe your kiddos like to start with skills practice. Then you build your rhythm out from there. Just remember, this is about finding your homeschool rhythm. But whatever you decide, you want to keep the basic rhythm the same for most days, most school days. So zooming out for just a second, here's a bit more on why rhythm is so valuable to us as homeschoolers. Perhaps this is you. Homeschool life feels chaotic with multiple children or extra activities on the schedule. Too muchness is the vibe in your home lately. You're skipping homeschool lessons or whole days or weeks or seasons. You get into a groove with homeschool life, but things derail as soon as sickness or holidays or summer comes around. You're forgetting to do self-care, which results in you feeling overwhelmed and irritable. You feel like the days are just slipping by and you're dropping important lessons or necessary tasks that you need to do to take care of your household or life. And maybe you're even thinking, I must be doing something wrong. How will I ever get all of this done? Or we keep getting further and further behind. First of all, I'm going to pause right there. Here's a reminder of this foundational aspect of homeschooling. Rhythm is at the core of what makes homeschooling life flourish. This is why every February inside the Inspired at Home community, we focus on rhythm. It's after the holidays, we can all be reminded of how rhythm can help us in our homeschools. We have a masterclass called Reset Your Rhythm with 6 core lessons, rhythm reviews, and so much more. This year, we're adding a concentric circles of rhythm guide, and we have a rhythm make-along plus conversations planned for February 21st on Zoom. If any of that is calling to you, we'd love to have you join us in Inspired at Home. I'll put a link to the show notes in this episode for where you can find more details about the community. When you join us, you'll also get the Homeschool Simplicity Bundle, which can teach you how to put rhythm into practice in your homeschool, plus plan hands-on lessons for your kiddos. So you might be wondering, why does rhythm help you flourish? Because it creates security for you and your children. Plus, it holds you up. It gives some structure to your days. A rhythm is simply a way of tying one activity to another, like we clear the table after we eat, or we gather for a story after tidying up. So incredibly simple. And this gives children the comfort of knowing what to expect, what comes next, and it helps you remember that you do have a plan. A steady rhythm each day gives you a structure to work within. It helps you to form your days on homeschooling time with your children, and it helps you to know what's next, even if you don't have an elaborate plan all mapped out. Because here's the thing, you will get it all done, and you'll get it all done by doing one thing at a time. Both of these are true. So I want you to remember this. You have weeks, maybe even years with your children, and the place to begin is in the here and now, doing just one thing at a time. By following a rhythm that you've designed specifically for your family, I promise you, it's not as complicated as we often make it out to be. So there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that when we try to do it all at once, we often feel so jumbled and overwhelmed. Creating a rhythm for your day can help you focus on one thing at a time and keep moving forward. The place to start, simply make a list of all the activities you'd like to include each day. Fair warning, when you look at the list, it might seem too long, like it's not possible to do it all. That's where you can begin to pare things down. So here are 4 really simple questions to ask yourself after you've made that list. What could we do just a few days a week instead of every day? What could we combine and do all together to make it go more quickly? What could I let go of for now and bring back next month or next season? What are the 1 or 2 top priorities for this week or month? Next, write up your daily rhythm as a list of activities in order, post it somewhere for all to see, and give it a try for a few weeks. If you've been working with rhythm in your homeschool for a while, see where you can tweak it based on the questions that I offered. And if this is new to you, you'll see how some things on that list work well, one following another, and others you need to change around. This is how you can find your homeschool rhythm. Remember, we can shift things as we go. But we also want to be consistent enough with our daily rhythm to experience the benefits of repetition. This is what reduces decision fatigue and makes life flow with more ease. Don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode for all the links I've mentioned. You'll find the show notes at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 168. Thanks so much for joining me today. And remember, next week's topic is better than curriculum. Hope you'll be joining me for that episode. See you soon. That's all for today, my friend. But here's what I want you to remember. Rather than perfection, let's focus on connection. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast.